Once again, my beloved viewers, wherever you are, I want to take this opportunity to welcome all of us to watch Matalo TV. Be reminded it is in Matalo TV where you get educated. It is in Matalo TV where you get encouraged. And it is in Matalo TV where you learn new things. I just want to welcome all of us warmly to follow us and to encourage us, because we also need to be encouraged. Let's join together in this battle of a call to the hurting man. And I want to assure us that we are not losing this battle, but we are winning at the end of the day. Today I have a topic on which I would like us to share together. And the topic that I'm going to share with us today is why the boy child is growing weak by the day. I just want to start with us a journey here, because things did not just happen, or what is happening today did not just happen from the bruise. There is a genesis of all this. And it has come to my attention that this problem has carried for many generations. But sometimes we assume it's a problem that will come and go. That is not the reality. That is not the truth. We have carried with our boys for many generations without mentorship, and now what we can see in our own eyes is the manifestation of the failures that have piled up for many years. As I've been doing my own research, I've discovered that we have like 5 generations of unmentored men, or men who are not mentored. And what do you expect from such men who are not mentored to becoming real men? They will also produce other men who are without mentorship. And so this problem has carried or has persisted for many generations. But thank God, because in every generation God will raise a voice. And the voice is here with us. And that's why I'm encouraging those of us that are following us through Facebook, continue sharing with as many friends as possible. To them that are following us through Twitter and Instagram, I request humbly that you share with many. To them that are following us through YouTube, my humble request to you is that request as many as possible to subscribe, because we must join our efforts together as we fight this battle. And to those that are following us in TikTok, please don't be mean. Let so many people know that we are live today, and we are ready to bring to all of us some information that will enlighten all of us to understand how best to handle the boy child. Now, having said that, let me just come to the real thing, because I'm talking today about why the boy child is growing weak by the day. Now, I want to start by giving us some ordinary example. All of us understand that what sustains a building is the foundation. And also what sustains a tree to be able to withhold or to resist the strong winds that are blowing around is the foundation. If the foundation is shaky, then the tree will fall. If the foundation of a house is weak, that house, no matter how magnificent, that house some days will fall down. And it is also the same case with every child who misses the right foundation. Such children some days will be frustrated. Such children some days will be vulnerable to many issues. Such children will suffer defeat and failures in different areas of their lives. And that's why in Matalo TV, we don't shy from what is happening, but we face the problem head on. Now, having said about the foundations, it must come to our knowledge that the boy child has been given a different definition about who they are. But the way they are defined brings some bad result that cannot be desired of anybody. Sometimes we think a boy child is a real man because they are in trouser. Other times we think that a boy child is a man enough because they have grown and maybe they have gone through a circumcision. To the tribes who do so. And that one cannot qualify that young man to becoming a real man. Other times we think because they have grown some beard, they are real men. Now that one is another misconception and it cannot work for us here. Another time we make some mistake to believe that because one has married and they have sad children, they are real men. All that cannot make a real man. Whatever definition that we have for the boy child cannot make a real man. And we need to dig to understand how do we produce a real man in life. Because this is a tough journey and this is a tough reality and we must face it head on. Now we come to this point. If we must produce the right or the real man that the nation desires to have or a family desires to have, we must understand that we have some work to do. Not some work just to do for 2-3 days and then we quit. No, we must be persistent in that kind of a work. Now, it is the duty of every good father to understand that raising a real man is not the work of the mother. Raising a real man is the duty. It is the work of the father. You have an obligation as a good daddy to raise a true man. And how can you raise a true man if you are never raised? Because raising true men is passing down an inheritance. If you are never raised up by your father, what inheritance will you pass down to your generation? And to a majority, we have nothing to pass down to our generation. Now, in the creation of our God, God created a man that is complete and not lacking. And he created man in 6 periods that I'm about to name very first, which will lead us into understanding the kind of duty that we have as men to raising and to developing true men. Now, God created a man as a leader. He also created a man as a provider. He created a man as a protector. He created a man as a counselor. He also created a man as a priest in his own capacity. And above all, he created a man not to be lazy, but to be very active, to be very hardworking. And you can bear me witness in the book of Genesis. When God created the first man, Adam, the Bible says he took this man into the Garden of Eden to work it out and to care for it. In other words, to work and to protect that garden. So, any man who lives in their own dreams thinking that they are going to be idle and lazy and the world will accept them, you are living on a lie and you are believing a lie, and some days you regret that. That's why Matalo TV is coming right to where you are, such that it will educate you, such that this voice will educate you to understand who a man is and how he should be raised up and developed. Now let's come to the starting point. We must understand that every other good mother has the potential only to raise a boy, but she does not have the potential to raise a man. And mothers who are watching me from all corners of the world, you can bear me witness that when these boys get into puberty or adolescence, you have no control over such. When they reach that stage, you lose your control, and they are out to challenge you and even rebel against you. Why is it that rebellion start to crop up, but they were so innocent when they were growing up to becoming adolescent? Why such rebellion could not be seen is because the child was under the good care of the mother, and because the good work was carrying on in the life of that child. The child was so polite, the child was so well behaved, and the mother would contain that child. But when they get to adolescent, let me tell you, mother, you bear me witness that is where hell breaks loose. Now, why do we need to understand more about this? We need to understand better that when the child becomes adolescent, they are graduating from childhood to a young adult, and that is where the voice of the father needs to come in. The father needs now to intervene and raise this boy to becoming a man and bring forth a voice that is different from the voice of the mother. And once that voice is introduced into the life of that child, whether a daughter or a boy, my good viewer, get to understand that the father will help this child to balance their lives. The boy will understand himself better as a man, and the daughter will understand herself better as a woman. So it is the father who comes in to strike the balance. Now, when you cannot contain this young boy, the father has what it takes to contain that boy. And the boy is rebelling because the mother cannot feel some emptiness that are cropping up inside that boy. Those kind of emptiness are meant to be filled up by the father. Now, the duty of the father is to allow this young boy to understand that God expects them to become true leaders. It is the duty of the father to introduce to his son that God desires to see a good provider. It is also the duty of the father to introduce to their son that God expects to see a protector, a counselor, a priest, and somebody who is very hardworking. Now, when the father starts to introduce such to this son, remember this: every man is created in these 6 pillars. So the moment the father starts to introduce these pillars to the son, whatever is lying idle, whatever is sleeping in this son start to rise up. The pillar of leadership start to wake up. The pillar of provider start to rise up. The pillar of a protector start to wake up. The pillar of a counselor starts to wake up. The pillar of a priest starts to wake up. And he also realizes that no leader who is out to lead people will become lazy. Every leader must be very active if they must win the respect of them that they are leading. So this kind of a rebellion dies with the time when they start to realize that they have so much to learn from their fathers. So the remedy for this rebellion is not that a beating. The remedy is to introduce them to that which they ought to know and understand about themselves. And so once they get into that kind of an introduction, they become so inquisitive. They want to know more about this leadership. They want to know more about this provider. They want to know more about this protector, and so on. And so the father will start by telling the son, leadership is not about holding titles, but leadership is the kind of life that you live. And the daddy would tell his son, you better understand this, that it is not easy to walk a leader and to live a leader. It is hard work. And that's where now mentorship comes in. The daddy would tell his son, my son, your mother have worked with you for 16, 15 years. Now, give me my years also to train you to becoming a real man. If it costed your mother 16 or 17 years for you to come to this level, now get to understand it will take you some more 15 to 16 years for a father to raise you to becoming a real man. So it's not a 2 days journey with the father. It is a long journey with the father. How many sons do know this? How many fathers do know this? A majority of us left everything to the mothers. A majority of us quit early enough never to come back. A majority of us never took responsibility. We left it under the mercies of the mothers. And by so doing, we developed a generation of weak men. And these weak men have cost us so much. And they have cost not only their families, but also the nation so much. So a father would tell his son, my son, get to understand this. For you to become a true leader, there must come a process. And this process sometimes will not be exciting. Every process, to those of us who understand, whether small or big, every process is painful. And so the daddy would tell his son, I'm not introducing you to a life of bread and butter. I'm not introducing you to a life of fantasies. No, I'm introducing you into a life that will cost you so much for you to realize yourself and for you to live to see yourself a real man. And so a father would prepare his son ahead of time and tell his son this journey will be long, but some days that journey will pay back. And so my son, do not be in a hurry. And do not get excited about life. Life is so ruthless. Life is so merciless. Once handled by somebody who is not prepared for the same. And so, before I continue, I want to pause a little bit, but I'm coming back. And I want to promise all of us that I'm going to teach us many things and great mysteries that will help all of us understand how we ought to come out of this mess and start living again. I hope you're enjoying what you're learning from Mathenge TV, and I would like just to humbly request you not to switch off, but to continue watching us on Mathenge TV. God bless you as you make Mathenge TV your TV. Once again, I know you have also paused a little bit, but I hope you are ready now to learn. Listen. This information was deposited in me by God through inspiration. And that's why I don't need any material, but I'll speak to us until we get it. Now listen to this. The father would tell his son, my son, as we get into this process, there is one thing that is needful for you to understand. And the son would be told of his father that any leader that you see around, whether educated or illiterate, rich or poor, strong or weak, makes mistakes. That is where the journey begins. Today we have so many rebellious young men and old men who do not admit to their own mistakes. They fight right, left, and center when they want to cover their mistakes. But a father would tell his son, if you want to grow to be a great leader, learn to accept mistakes. Because no leader that is without mistakes. Even myself, I'll find myself making mistakes. Even the professor that you see around, the doctor that you see around, the philosopher that you see around, all men, all leaders make mistakes. And so a father would tell his son, do not ever defend the mistakes you make, but admit to the same, and you become a good leader. What happens in the political arena, in the social arena? Every man, no matter how much you find them in their own mistakes, they'll always give a reason as to why it happened. They'll always defend their own failures and mistakes. They are not ready to accept. Because nobody trained them to understand that becoming a true leader is not about defending your mistakes and failures. It's about admitting to the same and making the right correction for you to become a living example to other upcoming leaders. And so a son would demand to know from the father, why is it that every leader makes mistakes, and it was God's desire to create a man as a leader? And the father would look straight into the eyes of the son and tell his dear son, my son, listen to this. God never created a perfect man. God created a man full of limitations. And the son would go ahead and ask the father, why is it that God never created a perfect man? And the father would tell the son, if God would have created a perfect man, man would not see the need to worship God. Man would not see the need to seek after God's help. Man would not see the need to offer prayers before God. And man will not respect God, because they are equal in knowledge, they are equal in understanding, they are equal in all that pertains to a godly creation. So the father would explain to his son bit by bit for the son to understand. And so the son would say, okay, if it is so, I now agree that as a human being, as a man, I'll make mistakes because I am not perfect. So it calls for a thorough preparation in the foundation of making a real man. If you miss that thorough preparation and a good foundation in raising your son, wait for some disaster some years to come. And so that's why a father would not rush his son into mentorship. The father would take the son gradually into mentorship. Mentorship is not about 2-3 lessons and then you go out saying, I've nurtured my boy in the right way. You don't understand and you don't know these things. These are tough lessons of life. These will cost the father and the son so much. Okay, now I want to show us that the problem did not start with us. The problem started with the first man, Adam. The Bible says when the serpent deceived the woman and she ate of the forbidden fruit that was in the garden, she also brought the same fruit to the man. And the man did not question the woman about it, but he continued to eat, and both of them fell into the trap of the enemy. But listen to this. God will always depend on a leader. So from today, get to understand that even where you are answerable to God as a leader in your own capacity. If you mislead your own life, God will demand to understand how you led your own individual life. If you misuse yourself and not lead yourself in the right way, let me tell you, some days God will call you into account. If you're wasting your time as a leader, some days God will call you into account. Now, what happened when God came into the garden in the evening? The Bible declares that God did not go calling Eve, who was wife to Adam. God called on Adam. Do you want to tell me that God did not know that they had already eaten the fruit? God is all-knowing. So even when they were in hiding, God was still knowing that they had already messed up. But he did not go to the wife to demand to understand why they are in hiding. He went to the leader. And listen to this. You have greater responsibility than you think as a man. And that is what every boy child should be exposed to understand. Or that is what every young man, every growing boy ought to be informed, that they have so much to take care of. They have some responsibilities, and great responsibilities, not only for their own individual lives, but as leaders. So God did not go to the wife. He went straight to the leader. And when the leader was met, or when God started to talk to this leader, God demanded to understand from the leader what had happened. And the leader started denying the truth. Even when he knew that God knows all things, he did not admit to his own mistakes. He started the blame game. He started shifting the goalpost. He started saying, it is this woman that you gave me who brought the fruit. Listen to this. That was a losing battle. God put you into the garden to take care of it and to protect it. And you are telling God that the woman was deceived of the serpent. Where were you when the serpent got into the garden? Listen to this. It is the duty of every leader to learn to protect not only physical things, but also spiritual things. And so we can see from the first example here that the first man did not admit to his own mistakes, and the problem started there. So every other man that you see around, unless they are taught to understand how a leader ought to live their lives, they are the old Adams who are still living today. And they will live in denial, they will live defending their own mistakes, and they will live defending their own failures. And that's why God is raising a voice to correct a generational mistake. That's why God is raising a voice to put things into their right perspective, to put things into their right order. That you don't have any good reason as to why it happened. Many things go wrong, but the good thing, if they go wrong, we need to identify with our own mistakes. We need to admit our own mistakes and make the right correction. If Adam was wise enough to admit or to accept his failure, to accept his mistake, I'm telling you, whatever we suffer today maybe would not be there. I use the word maybe because I'm also limited. I'm not God. I'm only suggesting maybe it might not be there what we suffer today. Now, a father would take his son down this journey and tell the son, my son, as much as it is very hard to admit to the mistakes or to accept your own mistakes and failures, you need to train your mind and your heart to be responsible of whatever happens in your life. And you can bear me witness that there are so many people that are not responsible with their own individual lives. They are careless with their lives. They care nothing, and they are not apologetic in any way. They live a very complicated life. A father would go ahead and tell his son, your leadership will only get to that level from where you have been able to accept your failures and mistakes. So you cannot go beyond that. And whatever people that you lead, you'll only bring them to that level from where you've been able to admit or accept your own failures and mistakes. And that is the danger that we have around. And I want to give us a very good example with our political leaders. Once we elect you into those seats, and we give you the projects that we'd like to see happen, and we sell you the ideas of where we'd like to see ourselves 10 years down the line. If you're not capable of taking us to such levels, let me tell you, even if we elect you next time, you'll only take us to where your leadership is. If you refuse to accept that you could not handle the projects, if you refuse to accept that the ideas we gave you were more than you could handle, if you refuse the reality is so ruthless sometimes, reality cannot be covered. Reality some days will expose your weakness. I'm only giving an example with political leaders because we have seen failures year after the other, and these same guys come to us asking for more votes, and whatever we sent them to do in parliament, in whatever locality they're coming from, they have not accomplished. They have no idea of how to approach such projects. But they want to come to us convincing us that next time when you vote me in, you'll see heaven on earth. You are a liar and a great liar. Your leadership can only go to those small levels or those small projects that you've been able to achieve or you have been able to carry on with. So if you don't have what it takes to take us to that other level, please give us a break and allow another leader to come in. And this pertains to all types of leadership. That is the truth of the matter. And so from there, a father would tell his son, there is this beauty of knowing how to accept your own failures and mistakes. The moment you allow yourself to admit to your own failures and mistakes, you give yourself a chance to correct your own mistakes. And by so doing, you stand an advantage to become a good counselor and a good teacher in such areas where other readers will come and fail. Now, I just want to give us another example because I want to make myself so clear such that nobody will miss these steps. We were in school and sometimes we would be given some mathematical problems to tackle. Now, anytime you would fail a mathematical problem and a teacher comes and show you how to go through or how to tackle that problem, next time if that problem would be brought in an exam, you would go first to that mathematical problem of which you did some correction with your teacher. And one thing I had learned myself is that when you do some correction, that which you had failed in, it would sink not only into your mind, but also into your heart. You keep to remember everything. That's what I'm trying to communicate to us. That any time we allow ourselves to admit or to accept our own failures and mistakes, we give ourselves enough room to correct such. And once we correct our own failures and mistakes, now we become good examples to others. We become good counselors to others. We become good fathers and good teachers to others. And today, it's not a wonder we may search around for true leaders, and it's like it is one in a million. Why? Because true leadership is not about being able to talk to people. It's not about being a good orator. Good leadership is leading by example. In other words, walking the talk. That is what we call good leadership. So anyone who thinks that by their talking will become a good leader, you are lied, and you are lying to yourself. Anybody who thinks by making a lot of noise they become leaders, you are living in your own deception. And you need to wake up from your slumber and understand how things ought to be done. So a father would tell his son, as he crowns the whole thing, that leadership is about the mind. And if we can borrow from the book of Proverbs, chapter number 23 and verses 7, the Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. In other words, you cannot outdo your mind. And that's why I'm saying a father would tell his son, my son, I love you so much, but one thing is needful. One thing is very essential to understand, that leadership is about your mind. And I cannot help you. If your mind is weak, then your leadership is weak. If your mind is small, then your leadership is small. If your mind is corrupt, then your leadership is corrupt. So a father would tell his son that if you must become a great leader, you must work out your mind. You must train your mind to see the real thing, not some fake things. You must train your mind to see clearly, not to see things that cannot make sense. And so the father would tell his son, I want to show you that it is through your mind that you can lift your leadership to higher heights, and it is also through your mind that you can lower your leadership. And the father would give him another example and tell him, my son, listen to me. I know you are in school, and there are times that your teacher will take you for physical exercise lessons, which would call PE. And there are times your teacher would demand that you go out for high jump. And my son, what happens when you queue to jump and whatever you're about to jump is higher than what you can jump? Now the father would tell his son that in your queue, whatever you see in your mind is what happens when you go to jump. So if you see in your mind going under, it does not matter how many people are celebrating you, how many people are cheering you up. It does not matter. What you see in your mind is what will result down there. So every other kid has a chance to jump, but it is the decision they make in their mind. It is the picture they paint in their mind that will help them either go under or jump. And so the father would tell his son, you don't jump because you are as fast as a deer. You don't jump because maybe you have the physical strength. You only jump because of the power of your mind. And the father would advise his son and tell his son, as long as you can see it clearly in your mind, as long as you can see yourself jumping from the mind, the body has no issue. And the son would ask, Father, you are telling me it's workable? And the father would tell him, yes, it is workable. If you see it clearly in your mind and you see yourself jumping, even when you walk, you still jump, because the power to lift you is not in the physical strength. The power to lift you up is in the mind. And the father would tell his son, the power to take you to greater heights of leadership is not in the physical strength. It is not in the much talking. The power to take you to higher heights of leadership is in the mind. And that's why Matalo TV will not stop at anything. Matalo TV will bring you the best, and will bring you those research information such that as you apply the same in your life will never be the same again. I want to raise sons and daughters through Matalo TV of whom the world will be proud of. Now listen to this. The father would tell his son, any leader who want to grow and become great, they must do away with excuses. Because anytime you allow yourself to be giving excuses why things happen the way they happen, you can never make a leader. So the father would tell his son, if you want to live and become a great leader, face every challenge head on. And the father would tell this son, not every challenge that you'll win, but it is better that you die trying. It is better that you hold yourself in the midst of the challenge other than quitting. So a majority who do not understand this kind of information, this is what happens. When you are not nurtured of your father, when you are not mentored of your father, you'll always come up with reasons why your life is not better. You'll always come up with some reasons why it never happened. And what are some of the reasons that we allow in our lives? Sometimes we go saying that because I'm not highly educated, that's why I'm leading a low level of life. Maybe because nobody loves me in my family, that's why you see me behave the way I behave. You know, my father never gave me an inheritance, that's why I'm poor. You know, all these are reasons that cannot hold any water. You're trying to give some reason as to why it happened. Such reasons will never help you emerge a winner. And when such cannot work for you, do you know what happens? You become vulnerable. And that's why you see, any leader who is not mentored, when they are challenged, they melt away. When pain comes their way, they cannot handle themselves. When big things face them, they run away and they hide because they don't have what it takes to hold them in the midst of opposition, in the midst of a people who are not for them, in the midst of those downfalls that come along the way. So I want to encourage every man who is watching me to understand that there is no excuse, there is no good reason as to why your life should not improve. The only problem you are suffering is you don't have anybody to train you. And God in his own miraculous ways has brought me into your life. And I'm going to train you. Where your father never did the training, I'll do the training. Where your father never cautioned you, I'll caution you. Where your father never gave you direction, I'll give you direction. This voice is meant to reach every man on the surface of the earth. Listen to this. A father would tell his son, I don't want you to be vulnerable and miserable in the life. So I'll teach you to handle issues the way they come. When people cannot appreciate you, learn to appreciate yourself. When nobody loves you, learn to love yourself first. When nobody is there to fight your battles, learn to fight your battles. When nobody is there to understand you, understand yourself. And when you do it that way, you stand a chance of becoming a renowned leader, and a leader who will leave behind a good legacy. So I'm saying, when we miss it there, now we become vulnerable. And when we become vulnerable, what are the results? Any man who becomes vulnerable, these are some of the results that we see around. They either become drug addicts, they either indulge in illicit brews, they either also get into some wicked behaviors. These men get to stealing other people's property. These people or these men destroy their own lives with their own actions. That is what is the end result. And when you get there, it's only God who can deliver you. No man on earth can be able to deliver you. So before you get to the extremist, it is high time that you correct your own mistakes. It is high time that you come back to your senses. It is high time that you stand your ground and say, I did not have a father, but God has sent one my way. I did not have somebody to train me to understand, but God has sent one my way to train me to understand. So you don't have any reason as to why you can remain a failure. You don't have any reason as to why you can remain a defeated fella all the time. A voice is in your heart right now. A voice is piercing your heart right now. And don't do away with this voice. Don't shun away this voice. Let this voice speak to you. Let this voice speak to your mind. Let this voice speak to your soul. Let this voice speak to your spirit. And you're going to become a man of substance. And so, this is a long journey. But I want to promise all of us, the journey is already started. And we are going to move together. And we are going to lift one another. And we are going to hold one another until we cross over to the other side. Remember, this is Mathenge TV, where we share with all of us some nuggets of wisdom. Where we share with all of us what we call true understanding and true knowledge. And so, let many get to understand that the game is on. And we are not stopping at anything. We are moving on head on, facing every challenge and having the desire to overcome whatever challenges that come our way. And so God bless you and God do you good. Until we meet on that other session that is coming, God give you the grace to carry on.